Greetings, friends. My name is Eugeny Kulyaev. Today is the most unique webinar, the most unique video that can change your life into a before and after. Learn, memorize, achieve. These are the things that will help you approach training, developing, and achieving your goals, your results, in a completely different way. These are 3 steps to supermemory. These are learn, memorize, and achieve. And now we need to check the connection. This is one of the important things you should always do when you are talking to people, reading books, or watching videos. The first thing is to understand how well you can see, if there is sound, and if everything is working well. That is, if everything is working fine, then you can go in. If you feel like your internet is lagging, look for a place that will have normal internet connection. That is, if there is something wrong with the sound, find a way for the sound to be normal. Otherwise, training is not good. That's the important part. So the duration of the lessons will be about 1 hour. Provide yourself with water and try to watch in one breath. Next, we will have exercises, so take an active part. Don't look like some kind of film and surprise me, right? Be here and pay attention, then you get the coolest result. It's better to watch from your computer because you won't have messages coming in, you won't be distracted. Watch from your computer, put your phone away, don't chat with anyone, then you will get the most powerful results. And today we're going to talk about the difference between people who are passionately engaged in something from people who do several things at the same time. After all, you can be that broad. Within the framework, in business, responsible for everything, communicating with everyone, but deep in centimeters. Then it will be such a wide puddle. I urge you to look into our depths. Depth, that is depth of skills, depth of knowledge, it gives us success. Write everything in Notepad. Take screenshots. The most important thing is to go back then to those notes and those screenshots, because a lot of times I see people who screenshot and then forget about it. Let's get acquainted. I'm Eugeny Kulyaev. I developed a technique by switching personal efficiencies. Techniques to improve memory and attention, which helps to transform. I was able to memorize 1,000 decimal places of pi in 6 hours, even though once, I'll talk about this a little later, I couldn't remember 4 digits. The turnover of my company is now over 100 million rubles. I'm a father of 2 daughters who, using my methods, graduated from school at the age of 14-15 years, and my family lives in a world where memory is something that can be used very easily. I have a wonderful family. I'm a father of 2 daughters. They were on the Amazing People show. Showed how they could use their skills. Memory, attention, visual thinking. And it's on Russia 1 channel. It is a show that is shown all over the world in different countries. It is called differently. These are amazing people who are endowed with something that surprises. And what I'm going to tell you today is just about that. You too can become amazing people literally, after today's lesson, this very lesson. And my wife and I created an author's methodology for brain development and language learning. Also, we've been teaching all over the world for over a decade, so in all the countries around the world there are at least 2, 3, 5, 10 people who know me for sure, who have definitely learnt something from our courses. So what are we helping? We help develop memory, focus attention, increase thinking speed, increase, most importantly, the percentage of understanding information, since it often happens that we're learning something, reading something, and we don't remember what was there. I think you've come across a situation where you're reading a book and you have to go back because we've forgotten what's in there. Or you have 10, 15 books on the shelf that you know exactly what you need to read. But there is no inspiration, there are no results, and you most likely have several courses purchased that you can't take either. How to do that? That's what we're going to talk about today. What to do to get you involved there, and how well-developed memory, concentration span, and reading speed help. So we have students of different ages coming in. There are those of the age of our parents. Irina probably is the most interesting case. Then I learnt that doctors diagnose that 6 months and that's it. a person loses their memory. And when Irina was looking for a long time, how to switch on, how to get everything back, and she found our exercises, she started working with them, and as a result, for more than 4 years, a person has been in life. A person writes poetry, organizes exhibitions of paintings, that is prolonging her life. And that's why I take it as the first case, because we have parents, and we ourselves are also moving towards growing up. And I see how the world is now getting younger with its body. I see that we are getting younger with our bodies, but since we don't develop our brains, we are not able to keep this dementia, Alzheimer's, at bay. So I encourage everybody to start developing brains now, because when you're 90 years old, 100 years old, it's hard to go back. It's much harder than it is now, when you're young, when you're strong, when you need to do it for sure. Here are some very cool techniques for entrepreneurs that help you grow very fast in income and fulfill your dreams. Anna came in with a request that a huge amount of information needs to be processed. She sees how much the world is saturated. That is, it turns out that a person who saw a huge number of opportunities and got the pull of such ambition, normal human ambition turned on, but lacks competence. And you probably live with it too, when the difference between ambition and competence is quite big, and you realize that through books, through learning, through communicating with other people, you could get those ambitions quite well. So you buy stacks of books, you buy courses, but you can't get through them because you don't remember something. Somewhere you lack discipline, somewhere you lack confidence, somewhere you lack fervor, and somewhere you read something but you don't remember what you read. Who's had that? Put a plus somewhere in the comments. Who's lived that? And so Anna had this thing where she couldn't even remember people's names. I mean, they meet somewhere and then a second later they don't remember what happened. Eventually, the exercises we developed gave her the opportunity to learn how to memorize. It changed everything. That is, firstly, she learned to read, namely to read at a speed of 669 words per minute while understanding what is written there. She learned to memorize foreign words. And it turns out that when you can do that, you start to believe in yourself. You get a huge insight, and you start to develop in a completely different way. I mean, that's an important part, and it's also important that Anna, she trained with us with her son, and it gave him the confidence to develop further. It turns out there are these techniques for all generations. So, what did we create this video for? For you to understand what the key levers are for improving our lives. Because it's often the case that we move in a certain direction. We think that these particular movements help us grow. But in the end, we don't notice how we touch a lever somewhere with our backside, and it allows us to grow quickly and interestingly. And then trying to repeat somewhere else, we do kind of the same hand movements, but something doesn't work out. And these are the levers that I'm going to highlight to you today. I'll tell you how to use them, how-tos so you can get to the next level quickly through simple and easy exercises. After all, the important part of which is where you can start thinking when you want to achieve something. So you can ask the question, how can I get this? And look from the position of your competences. How can you get all this? What are the steps? But another question can be asked, what do I have to become to be able to get this? That is, what in myself should I develop in order to reach the goal I'm heading to? And that's the best option, since if we go from small competence to big goals, often we can't hold it all together. And we lose, and we fall to a lower level, and we get so frustrated with life. But if you're strong, you can catch the goal and hold on. So, today is going to be practice. Pay attention to this practice. We'll see how the brain works in general. What interesting ways you can use to upload information, because it gives you inspiration and belief in your own power. I'll tell you about the course. This course is such a base. The most important, the one that every person should take. I think that's something that should be at the very beginning of life's journey, is inclusion in life through this knowledge. Anyone should take it before school and then develop. Well, you'll know what I'm talking about. Let's move on. So, for those who will see everything, we have prepared a gift. It's a habit tracker. It will make it easy for you to build habits. A workbook of healthy habits and a guide on how to develop self-control. These are important things to learn how to work with. We have developed it, and we will give it all to you. So the question is, why do some partners achieve cool results and others fail? It seems like such a trivial question, but let's look at it from different angles. The basic thing that everyone basically understands is that some people have the ability to adopt the experience of other partners. Others, for some reason, have the same, we hear. But for some reason we can't understand it, and can't act further on. That is, some have the ability to more easily absorb information and knowledge that is passed on to other partners, while others somehow hear the same thing and do not have this ability. Some people have the ability to interact with people on the team, others, for some reason, don't. Why this happens, today you will understand. You have it all switched on now. So, the difference in people's performance is due to several key factors. Let's look. So the first thing is the environment in which you and I now live. Some people earn certain money, some people live and have certain cars, in certain flats, a certain circle of people. And some people have it at a high level, and some people have it at a low level. That is, broken dreams, lack of money, and such a sad face. What determines the environment? What determines our environment? It is determined by the life code. What's a life code? Life code is a set of habits, skills, and knowledge that a person has acquired in a preceding life. It turns out, those habits that one has built up, they enable one to get a certain kind of life. All your knowledge that you have accumulated from the moment you were born to the present day reflects what you have now. And if you're not happy with something in what you have now, you should ask yourself what I have not worked out in my life code. And it turns out that the skills, the knowledge, the abilities may be the same, but they may be at a high level or they may be at a low level. At a high level, they provide a cool environment that is full of interesting people, trips, vacations, and finances. Something that at a weak level of discipline, at a weak level of knowledge, naturally produces other fruits. But how to get that life code? It's a very interesting thing. It is obtained through repetition, through the focus of action. That is, in order to gain some skill, you need to repeat it regularly. And the hardest thing here, the nastiest thing, is that when you repeat it regularly, you don't get rewarded. That is, here is this picture. It shows what we are repeating, but we are repeating without enjoying today's routine, and we should see the goal we are going for. Probably the easiest way to imagine what I'm talking about is to imagine us working out at the gym. That is, you come to the gym, you lift dumbbells, you lift, no one tells you, what a great guy you are, how well you lifted a dumbbell. Well, how beautifully you lifted a dumbbell. Every time you cause yourself discomfort by not seeing the results, for a very long time, for several months, a person does not see the result. But then at some point, they come to the mirror. And if they worked enthusiastically, if they gave their best, they see once the outline of a muscle, they say, wow, cool. That is, they first saw this result in their head. Then for the sake of this result they were able to repeat some actions without instant inspiration, instant gift to themselves. I mean, we're human beings. It's probably more about animals that an animal cannot regularly repeat certain actions in order to develop a skill. But we can imagine some goal, And so if that goal is very bright, powerful, we'll do these exercises as cool as possible. I once listened to an interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He highlighted this very strongly. You can watch. He says, "When I was working out in the gym, my mates used to ask, 'Why are you smiling? You do so many reps with barbells, with dumbbells. It's so hard, and you're smiling.' And he says, 'I saw myself participating in the Mr. Olympia and winning.' It turns out that the focus of action, it can be in such a variant, and it will give a great life code and great environment, or in such an action, when a person just repeats some regular actions, not understanding where they go, why they go. Just someone told them, 'Do these actions,' and they already understand. They look. The sun is shining outside. Friends are calling for a beer. Someone invites them somewhere to relax, to go, or to watch some serial. And they say, 'What am I for?' Do it. Why am I developing these skills? And so in this case, in the lower case, let's see. Yes, I mean there's no goal. We're training so-so, getting so-so skills, a life code, and a so-so environment. That is, when we see a cool goal, when our goal is developed, it's an understanding of how I want to see myself, then we get involved in the work more strongly, more efficiently, and we get great skills that allow us to receive an environment. And here is the most important thing, the one that is not obvious. It turns out that the image of the goal, if you have one in your head, is very bright. It forms the bright environment. If you can't imagine yourself vividly, then the environment is not bright either. So this is what we're talking about now. This is what we're focusing our attention on. That is, if you can imagine in your head what you want vividly, and your heart is beating from the result that you want to see, then the accumulation of skills will occur with great interest, because those unpleasant moments from developing a skill will be compensated by seeing yourself ahead, in the future. And if you don't see yourself in the future, then everything is going to be inconvenient then. In other words, this is setting goals. They should be visible. But it's not easy to see, and today we're going to do an exercise that will develop your neural connections that allow you to see it. You do realize it's all in our heads, don't you? If you develop the ability to visualize, you will see it. If you don't develop, then no matter how much you're asked to imagine yourself in the future, you're not going to have this skill right here of seeing yourself in your head. That's one of the skills you need to develop. So what does this relate to? Relates to everything. That is, when you are told that, well, it's corny, right? That is, you are told, look, there is such a thing as compound interest. There is such a thing as a company to invest in, and they describe to you, look, here you are investing, and here's going to be this beauty in 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years. If you clearly see in your head this beauty that will be, you can easily invest in yourself in your weekly, monthly account because you will be so inspired by the picture that you will choose between that picture and today. Since at this moment in time you have a financial investment there, an investment of your personal time. You can invest finances in the future. You can invest your own time in the future. But then you have a bunch of TV series, a bunch of delicious food, a bunch of nice clothes that you also have to spend either money or your time on. And so the choice that we make in this second, it depends on whether our brain inspires us, this goal that's in the future, or whether it doesn't inspire us. Either inspires or not. And it depends on how well developed your image sensitivity is. So there is a goal. We either see it in our imagination and it makes us move forward, or we do not see it. So, the goal is a matter of visualization. So, visualization. Thoughts are things. Everyone knows that. We are not going to argue with it. I mean, you agree with it. Agree? Nod if you agree. And the second, thoughts are unpredictable. We are going to talk about the hummingbird effect a little bit later, and you will understand how this can also be used. But for the first time, we're going to talk about visualization. What is visualization? It's visual thinking. It's a skill that needs to be developed. And there are special exercises. That is, the skill to be developed. And there are special exercises. And you and I have now entered an era where this skill needs to be developed independently. I mean, if we take our generation, the generation that was born before the age of video content, before the age of video games, we were lucky because our brains were provided with an environment where our brains developed on their own. So, this environment helped us develop the skill of visual thinking. So we didn't have TVs, we didn't have gadgets, and we formed this skill through communicating with the world. Our grandparents used to read us fairy tales, and to see what it was about, we pictured it in our heads, and we found it interesting and asked for more stories. Some of us read, some of our grandmothers, grandfathers told us how they harvested crops, how they ground flour. I remember people grinding flour on millstones and making bread from that. I was interested because I hadn't seen bread made when I was a kid. When I was told something, I always visualized it. And when my grandmother would say millstones to me, I would ask, "What's that?" And she was trying to show what it was. And then when I saw the millstones, I already knew how to mill. I poured the grain that way, ground it. But it was all still developed through visual thinking. I didn't see it. I didn't touch it. That is, my grandparents told me this, and I, by straining my mental faculties, developed the neural connections that are responsible for visual thinking, and it became stronger. Then we grew up on our own, remember? Yeah, the moments when there were no cartoons, there were no films. We read books, we listened to audio stories, we listened to records, and we reinforced this visual thinking. We reinforced it every time. When we went outside, we saw puddles, gasoline drops on the puddles. They made such iridescent streaks. We saw some beautiful castles there. We were looking up at the clouds, and we saw some elephants, cloud-shaped hippos, dogs, something else floating across the sky. And it was all in our heads, so every step we took was essentially developing visual thinking. And then growing up by the age of 7 or 8, when we went to school, we could listen to teachers, we could read a book, and we could understand what it was about. And nowadays we have an industry that has given such a gorgeous, interesting thing as video content, as games. And now our children no longer need to develop visual thinking. We quietly watch videos, quietly watch cartoons. And we are developing, the only thing that our children are developing now is their eyes movement for bright characters. It turns out that our children don't develop visual thinking, and we are losing it. It's being lost. This skill is getting worse and worse every year. And it turns out, if you read something, because reading is, first of all, visual thinking. That is, if you read some sentence, there is "Mother washed the cat." You should have it all in some picture, and you can imagine what color the cat is. What mother is wearing, where she is. It's all imagination, it's not words. And if your neural connections are trained to do that, they'll see the picture, and then you can talk about it. And it turns out that it is not developed in children, and it is weakening in adults. Because you know perfectly well that life is arranged in a very simple way. What we don't do atrophies. If you don't speak a language for a long time, it becomes weaker. It is not forgotten completely, but it becomes weaker. If a person lies immobile for a very long time, they lose muscle, and at some point muscle remain, but the person can't walk. They have to learn to walk again. It can be done, but they won't be able to use those muscles like they used to when they were all there. So, visual thinking is the #1 lever. There will be 3 levers in total. The number one lever that you need to develop, and there are special exercises that help develop it. And this exercise that we're going to do today, you can do it like in the top picture. Yes, that is, do it as hard as you can, as involved as you can, get the maximum result, and your images will be seen very cool. Either by the bottom one, so just observing, watching. Well, something doesn't make sense, does it? Then you'll get a different result. So be involved and make the most of it. Make the most of your results. So let's get down to the exercise, which turns on quite strongly those neural connections that are responsible for your visual thinking. Do what I tell you to do. Switch off all messages and just follow my speech and repeat what I'm going to tell you. So everyone needs to relax, inhale, exhale, try to let go of thoughts. Now you need to concentrate on your imagination. You can imagine pictures with your eyes closed. But the main thing is to imagine, that is. Now the main task is to let the brain see the picture in your imagination, not memorize pictures. You need to create a movie in your head in order to make it easier. Raise your eyes above the horizon, even if they are closed, and start imagining. So let's go. So the first word is hydrant. Imagine it. It stands in some place and it's big. It's really big. Just imagine it's 2 meters. Such a big fire hydrant. Why they made it. But apparently in this place they need such a strong big hydrant to have a lot of water. And look at this fire hydrant. And the next image is a helicopter. The same big helicopter approaches it. Look what color it is, what it's made of, what doors it has, what propellers it has, and it hooks onto a fire hydrant and tries to lift it. It increases the power, it starts humming harder, the wind starts blowing everything out, and then it tries to take off. But it doesn't succeed. The hydrant is very heavy. It's very firmly fixed. The helicopter tries to lift it, but it doesn't succeed. Then one door of the helicopter opens. The lighters comes out of it. This is the third image. The lighters are big, about 1.5 meters and a meter, so lighters of different sizes. They fall out and down. And as they fall, you see sparks raining from them. And these lighters of different colors come out of the helicopter. And now the bear, on its hind legs walking, it walks over to the lighters. The bear takes one lighter in one paw, the other in the other paw, and whistling walks. And you look at what kind of bear it is. You look at what color it is, how it walks, and you notice a very interesting detail. This bear has really big eyebrows. They're just huge eyebrows, and so big that it even feels like it's hard for him to hold its head up straight. But nevertheless he walks cheerfully. And now pay attention to the eyebrows. What color they are, how thick, how dense they are. And look at one eyebrow. There's a corby hiding there. A big corby that's sitting just in these eyebrows. It's going through the hairs. It's doing something there. It's probably riding on these eyebrows. Look at what color it is, what beak it has, what it's doing there. And look at the strange behavior of that corby. It's like it's uncomfortable, but it's also like it's funny, like someone's tickling it. If you look closely, there is a rather large nit running and jumping around that corby. And it can even be designed in some way, like a robot nit. And look at how many legs this net has, how it jumps, how big it is. And having taken a close look at that net, you'll see a very interesting detail. This interesting nit is wearing an oxygen mask. For what? It's unclear, but apparently it's the net's way of moving faster. Look at the color of the oxygen mask, the size of the oxygen mask. Try to hear the enite breathing through the oxygen mask. And look at this oxygen mask carefully, very carefully, because there is a flower growing out of it. Your most favorite flower. And the flower has a very interesting, beautiful neon sign on it. A neon sign that shines with neon color. And it's such a magnificent sight that you look at this neon color with pleasure. You realize it's the most beautiful color in the whole world. So, look, 10 words that you and I have imaginatively put together into a picture. Once again, don't look at the screen. Eyes just above the level of the horizon and a fire hydrant. Remember what flew up to it. It's a helicopter and it hooked, trying to lift it. One lighter flew out of it, a second one, a third one, and fell to the floor. And a bear came up to them. The bear took a couple of lighters, went. The bear has huge eyebrows. These eyebrows are so huge that a big corby sits quietly in them. And this corby is laughing because it's tickled by a nit. The nit is interesting. It is unusual, probably a robotic nit. And it has an oxygen mask on its head. The oxygen mask it breathes through. The oxygen mask of a very interesting color. And it's also interesting because it has a flower growing on it. The flower, your favorite flower. And there is a neon sign on this flower. A splendid bright neon sign that shines bright in such a neon color, 3135. Here are the 10 images that we put together. And these images formed a certain picture, a certain cartoon in your head. And now we need to clean up a bit. Clean up the cashier's memory, and then I'll give you a few minutes, just a minute, to write it all down. Well, what is a cashier's memory? I mean, we need to see how you memorize things. And there is the cashier's memory looking at the cash register and saying, for instance, 3317. People pass by, one person enters, another leaves, the cashier makes a new check and says, for instance, 2018. They no longer remembers the previous one. That's a cashier's memory. So, I'll tell you a little bit of a story to remove that cashier's memory out of your head. Well, when I was 28 years old, I faced with the fact that I couldn't memorize neither English words nor books. That is, I tried to develop my competences, but the result was 0. And the first thing I decided that I was sick. I mean, that I got sick and had to be treated with pills. I went to the pharmacy and asked for memory pills. A pharmacist looked at me, she was surprised. She sold me something. She sold some pills, some nootropic substances, and it took me like a month to realize that it wasn't working. And eventually I started to study how memory works in general, how our brain works, and what helps it remember and what hinders it. And so as a result of all my experiments, came to the point where I learned how to memorize quickly, how to work with information quickly. And it took me over 2 years just to collect information about people who had done something in their memory. About people who also once faced a problem and not just stepped over it, but began to look for ways out of this situation. And what I'm showing you today is the first such basic exercises that help you regain your memory. And the first thing to do is to work with visual thinking. And it literally took 2 years for me. It'll be faster for you. In 2 years, I came to the point where I memorized somehow. I remember this evening very well. I memorized 160 English verbs in an evening. So it's complicated things like that. Nouns are easier to learn in another language. That is, I memorized 160 verbs in another language I didn't know. This delighted me, inspired me, and I began to develop this program. Next, I passed this on to my daughters, and here's what I told you earlier. My girls graduated from school, finished 11 grades at the age of 15 years. It's all thanks to these very techniques that develop visual thinking, memory, and attention. So, how's your cashier's memory doing? Vanished. So, what are you doing now? Pause and try to write all 10 words, 10 images in 1 minute. That is, It often happens that people write balloon, balloon, coal, cheek. Cheek is not there, tear is not there. I mean, do you remember the 10 images we talked about? You don't need to write unnecessary images. So those 10 images that we wrote, only they should be written. Do you understand the assignment? Here, pause and write. I'm not going to continue until you pause it. Pause, write, and then we'll check how well you have it memorized. Let's go check it out. So hydrant, helicopter, lighter, bear, brow, Corby, knit, oxygen mask, flower, neon sign. So, did you get it? Did you get all 10? Here is an exercise that allows you to develop visual thinking. After this exercise, you move on to a completely different level of working with the information in your head. When you do enough of these exercises, you develop a neural network that helps you visualize absolutely all the information you are reading. So these exercises build your brain power, the kind that you start to learn differently. This is the first basic part. So there's also another wow effect here, which for me is like straight up so very powerful. So you and I have now memorized the element periodic table. Let's decipher. Hydrant is hydrogen, helicopter is helium, lighter is lithium, bear is beryllium, brow is boron, Corby is carbon, knit is nitrogen, oxygen mask is oxygen, flower is fluorine, neon sign is neon. That is, you have now memorized the 10 elements of the first element periodic table. Those people who are into it, you understand that the number of an element in the element periodic table corresponds to the number of electrons, the number of protons, and you can pull some more information from here. My youngest daughter took chemistry at 12 years old in high school, and when she was sitting, solving everything, at the end of the exam the teacher remembered and said, "Oh, Alina, I forgot to give you a textbook with the element periodic table." And my daughter says, "I don't need it." The teacher asks, "Why? What do you mean you don't need it? What are you, like, cheating or something?" She says, "No, I remember." And there was such a distrust. And the teacher asked, "What's the 25th element there?" She answered, "Magnesium." She asked, "What's 88th?" She answered, "Radium." And the teacher was shocked. Shocked I gave her A, of course. And the child understood that. She understood, no? 25 isn't magnesium, it's manganese. And the teacher asked, "And there's the 25th element. What's yours?" She says, "That's manganese, and 88th is radium." The teacher was shocked, and it made the child realize that this is not the level of norms for everyone. That is, when before this exam she thought that all people know the element periodic table, all people know 200 decimal places of pi, and all people can read at 600 words per minute. I mean, a 12-year-old child lives in that. And when she started to connect with reality, to watch, she realized that these were her skills that I had managed to develop in her. These are the skills that I've been able to develop in myself. These are skills that you can develop by taking that small course we will offer you. So, that was the first one. First, it was visual thinking. And the second, very important part is the focus of attention. It's the ability to focus on some action for a prolonged period of time. And there's a very interesting thing here too. That is, firstly, each of us was born with a focus of attention equal to 0. I mean, we received from our great-great-great-great-grandmothers and great-great-great-grandfathers a great gift, to be unfocused, since 100,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago. Those individuals survived, that is, our great-great-great-great-grandfathers, who were as unfocused as possible, and they could see the danger in time and run away. Those grandfathers and grandmothers who didn't have offspring, they were fascinated by contemplating the cone. Somebody was arguing with each other. They didn't have this defocus, and they died, because the world was very much saturated with dangers and different predators. And so from generation to generation, those people, those of our descendants who were maximally focused, they survived. They created couples and gave birth to new generation. They gave us this gift, to be maximally unfocused. And so that world before the age of video content taught us to focus. When our grandmothers, grandfathers told us some stories. They told us a story. Could start one night and end a few days later. Yeah, those stories that were interesting. And we developed the skill of keeping the focus of attention for a long period of time and remembering what it was about in the beginning. Because if our focus of attention is not held, we don't remember what was in the beginning, and we don't have pictures created. So when we learn to read, learn to visualize, because if you don't have visualization switched on, you're not really interested in reading. It becomes interesting for you to read when the first thing about visual thinking was, this is the first part. The second part is to focus your attention. So you're interested in reading. You're reading. But if the focus of attention isn't there and you're constantly distracted, you're not going to get the big picture and you're not really interested in reading the book. For those of you who have gone through this kind of engaged reading in your life, you have developed both focus of attention and visual thinking. And this gives you a competitive advantage in learning any things, in forming any habits, skills, and in forming that set of habits that gives you a cool life. Clear, yeah, a link. And these exercises here, they are the coolest exercisers for developing focus of attention. That is, when you connect these pictures in your imagination, as we did, you create a neural connection that helps you keep your focus of attention. Our world, it's different. You all know that the focus of attention now, someone says, holds for 12 seconds. Someone says for 3 seconds. That means we're scrolling, screenshotting quickly these Instagram, TikTok, YouTube feeds. If something gets boring out there, our focus of attention goes away, and we look for something brighter, more inclusive. So it turns out that our children's focus of attention is not being developed. For you and I, due to a large amount of content consumed, it becomes worse, worse, worse. It degrades. And this does not allow us to learn as quickly and powerfully as possible. So when you're learning something new, you need to have a visual thinking, reading books, listening to courses, and you need to have a cool focus of attention to keep it all in your head for a long time so it stays there. Because if you study something, get distracted, then come back, it's not going to attach to the core, what was there, and you'll just forget. You've been through this before, I think. Write down who has had problems with learning something, and then going back to it a week later and not remembering anything. Felt, well, let's just say a bit of a mess. So, focus of attention is something that needs to be developed along with visual thinking. Without focus of attention and visual thinking, nothing gets done. And the coolest way, this is the way that we've been practicing with you now, memorizing the element periodic table. And there will be a few of these practices in the course, a few of these exercises that, if you get involved, will develop visual thinking and focus of attention. And now perhaps the most important formula for success is to work with our competences. And here, let's look at the next metaphor. Imagine you are in a city like this, where the hero stands, and there is a certain content in this city, that this city is filled with content. And within this content you can see women, men, some insects, a cat, a dog, some birds you can see. And within that content you can see them. There will be those animals, people, plants, and you can't control it. You agree with that, don't you? That's a metaphor for our consciousness. So the content that you've accumulated in yourself, it forms certain thoughts that you have in your head, meaning you can't predict. Remember, we talked about this, that thoughts are unpredictable. You can't predict the next 5, 10, 15 thoughts that you're going to have. So you can write down these thoughts right now. You may say, yes, I can predict in general all the thoughts I will have in a day. You can write them and try to talk them through. But you're going to have a million other thoughts on top of that that you didn't predict. That is, the thought process is unpredictable. We have thoughts that come, and we forget those that came. We think of new ones, and sometimes the thought gets us so wound up that we lose control of ourselves. We get nervous. Sometimes the thought comes, we rejoice. So the thought process is out of our control. It needs to be accepted, and it's shaped within the content we're in. Like within a city, you can meet certain people, and you won't meet other people, other animals. And if suddenly around this person, within the framework of this content, suddenly beautiful hummingbirds, beautiful birds, small, beautiful, they will like them, they will be involved in them, they will be interesting, beautiful, but lack of feeding area, lack of weather conditions will keep those hummingbirds from surviving there for long. That is, they will urgently need to move to a place where there is enough food and normal enough temperature conditions for their survival. Otherwise, if they stay in this format, they will disappear. So they either have to fly away or they die. And that's exactly how our reality is shaped. It turns out, when you're in your content state and you have someone who wants to do you good, who's seen more of you already knows you, who has different content, they say, look, do this one, do 2, do 3, do 4. They give you 4 thoughts like that and they say, you're going to change everything. And if you don't change the content, if you don't read the books, you don't evolve, you leave that content, you say, cool, I like all this stuff. But after a while you meet again with your mentor. They say, so, did you do it? And you say, do what? They say, well, I was giving you thoughts. They say, oh, that's right, they were beautiful. And you see, they have flown away, because they have not taken root in the content in which you live. What do you need to do for yourself? You need to start changing your content. You should change inside. And it turns out, this form of success, it sounds like that by developing visual thinking, by developing focus of attention, you can start to change your habits, your skills. By developing yourself, you can then get these hummingbirds, and they'll stay with you, and you can change your environment, your world. So if you don't change your environment, your content, then whatever advice you're given, no matter how great it is, you can't use it, and your environment will stay the same. Nod your head, who understands what I'm saying. Well, so, introducing these practices helps to improve brain function, memory, and it leads to a successful and conscious life. Not pills, just practice. Practicing focus of attention, visual thinking. Through this, we create new neural connections, and this allows us to grow quickly in content. That is, if you define in a nutshell what you need to go to, you need to teach your brain to read at a minimum of 600 words per minute. What is it to read at a minimum of 600 words per minute? This means that when you lead your eyes over the words, you form images at such a speed, and you are able to concentrate from the first to the last image on what is written and understand what is going on there. So you should have very strongly developed visual thinking, focus of attention for that. And then any learning, any content work, it will be beneficial to you. It will change your content. And then there's a chance that your thought process will change you. Got it? So it's important to realize that a high score is the outcome of your conscious choices and constant work on yourself. And this is where just remember, there was a picture that there's one vivid image and another black and white image. So it turns out that conscious work on ourselves is often impossible because we do not see our imagination, we do not see ourselves in that reality. And we can paste a lot of pictures on the walls, dream posters, but if you don't see yourself in your imagination as the person you want to be, it's not going to help you find inspiration to do these monotonous activities of developing your skills and developing competence on a daily basis to change your content. So it turns out that the course we are going to offer you today is what will allow you to see the picture of your dream, learn quickly, and get what you want quickly. So the first thing to take for yourself is that if you see the goal in your imagination clearly, if that goal makes your heart pound, flutter fast, then you're changing yourself, changing your attitude. And so I had that skill very much developed by the time I was 38, that was 2014. And it turns out at 28 I started to develop this, and at 38 I realize I need to change something. And I'm signing up, buying a course from Ishak Pantasevich. That's what changed my whole life. I buy it, and it's a challenging 6-month course, a bunch of books, a bunch of assignments, and already then, I had already been developing memory, attention, and visual thinking for 10 years. But I did this first in order to learn English. I didn't link it then to the development of visual thinking, focus of attention, just for the English language. Then the kids got a little older when I started giving them my technologies. And so I go into this training on my own, that is, without paying attention to the training I've done for my brain, and out of 12 people, I'm the one who finished it. You could say you were lazy, there were some like that, others like that. But now I realize that my brain was pretty good at seeing the outcome that I was going to get to. My brain was good enough to keep my attention focused on the tasks at hand. Good enough I could quickly read and understand what was written about. And it allowed me, one of 12 people, to get to the point where I was already, after 6 months, someone who easily understands what online training is, how to create it all. And I changed my world and the world of my family. So I was able to leave the city of Novosibirsk, which is a cold city in Siberia, and go to Sochi. Now I live in Sochi, enjoying the warm climate. I realize that the changes I've made to myself, they've led to this great success. And the method is quite simple, and it produces fantastically powerful results. So, when you have visual thinking and focus of attention at once, it's very easy for you to create an environment where you are efficient, where you consciously consume information, where you create this happiness of being in life. Because the life of a happy person who is able to develop in 3 areas is cool. The first area is health. And if you're aware, you won't eat whatever turns up. So you can be energetic, powerful, because the unaware person resembles an animal, eats everything and naturally feels bad. Because our world is full of delicacies that don't help our bodies. I think you all know about it. The second is your relationship. It's friends, it's family. Again, an intellectually developed person is able to create cool relationships and live in them coolly. And the third is money. Money that allows us to live, to travel, and to be included in this world, to be interested. And so these techniques allow for rapid development in that direction. By developing visual thinking, focus of attention, you can easily put away what you don't need. I mean, choosing information that contributes to your growth and your deep development. That is, when you know where you are going, You are clear on what you need to do right now to grow. Developing visual thinking allows you to learn quickly because the most important thing in our lives is to visualize what you want to understand. And here 2 trump cards appear for you when you develop visual thinking. It's to see your goal and move towards it clearly, every day. Doing some things that may not bring great happiness or great interest at the moment, but at the same time you get great results because you know what it's for. That's the first thing. Second, when communicating with another person, when studying, when reading books, when taking some courses, it is visual thinking that allows you to understand what you are being told, what is written, and what the other person is talking about, and what is written in the course. Without visual thinking, learning is impossible, and one of the important things is to be able to eliminate the information of that content that is not useful and distracts your attention. It's a very serious part of our lives because a huge bunch of marketers who have a very powerful education in diverting our attention, they're trying to divert it and take it for themselves. Here, I think you've been stuck more than once on Instagram, on TikTok, and you understand how it works. That you can give 2 hours of your life to just someone because they know how to control your attention. Or, someone is sitting there playing games, just running their fingers over the screen, and this of course does not develop us as an individual, as a person. It does not give us any value in this life, and so we spend our lives on the wrong things. That is, when you develop your intelligence, you can choose consciously what you want to do. And of course, focusing on what's important is what gives you the development of visual thinking and focus of attention. Because the world we live in is in the absence of a focus of attention, and a person switches from one to another, from another to the third, from the third to the fourth, without developing deeply on their own. And when you develop in that, you start to get what you want faster. Thanks to this method, I came to the point that I quickly grew to a good income. In previous years, I had 60 million rubles a year, and now I have 100 million rubles a year. My personal brand has developed in just 4 months. In 4 months, we gained 170,000 followers on social network. At the age of 36, I started speaking English. That is, until I was 36, until I had a diverse mindset and focus of attention, I couldn't learn English. I couldn't remember what I was learning yesterday. I learnt 1,000 decimal places of pi in 6 hours when I was 40, probably 48 years old, and the element periodic table in 3 hours. So it's the level of focus and the level of working with the methodology. These are the things that help you learn any information. That is, when you have the skill developed to learn, that is, imagine if you can learn 1,000 decimal places of pi in 6 hours. How would you feel about reading a 200-page book then? It will be easy for you, you will understand. If I have learnt 1,000 characters, I can read fast here too. I have been trained on the very best courses. I have over 500 books in my collection that I have studied in depth. I can talk about them, advise on what to read. Master's degree in pedagogy. I'm an NLP master, dissertation writer, international programs, and that's all because I started developing visual thinking and focus of attention through these techniques at some point. And I'm blessed to have a spouse who supports all of this, and she's involved in the process, and also my children who have been able to adopt it. Not every parent has kids that involved. I want, of course, to pass this knowledge on to everyone. And that knowledge helps turn into your knowledge. You turn it into money when either a thought comes to you or you can apply someone else's thought to your life. Next, the content that you get, you can transform that into client's flow, and your brain is the exact tool to achieve any goals. That is, when you form these skills at a high level, you live a wonderful, happy life. So, what do you think? Awesome. Write your insight in the comments. What was it like for you? After which life will not be the same. And when I realized all this, I improved my course and made it clear and accessible to everyone. And it began naturally, by passing it on to my children. What I said was that a child at the age of 12 did not want to go to school. She asked the question, "Dad, why school?" I managed to find this why. And this picture in her head was so bright, gorgeous and strong that she finished 5 grades in 2 years. And one of her grades, the 8th grade, can you imagine, the 8th grade, an entire grade, she completed in 48 days. She ended up finishing 11th grade at the age of 15 and enrolled in university. That is, and here the key point was the image of the goal to which she was going. So it's an important point, if you have a cool image, you are going forward cool. And the main reason to develop your brain, the main reason to develop your visual thinking is the content that allows you, first of all, to generate thoughts. So your brain will generate itself without your involvement. Remember that we can't predict thoughts? But your brain will generate completely different content and different thoughts when you have it on high level of development. That's the first thing. Second, you communicate with people, overflowing with thoughts. These thoughts will stay with you and create something new. New structures, new connections. Okay, well, who's basically already been doing brain development in some way? Write in the comments, what have you been doing? And I've picked out 3 mistakes people make. One of the mistakes, actually all 3 of them, they're related to one, that we don't see well enough where we're going in the future. Yes, that is the future, not a year from now, but 20 years from now, 15 years from now. It's hard to see this when you don't have your visual thinking improved. And that's when we don't see what we're going for. We lack a system. That is, we study once a week, we study once a year. That is, we cannot motivate ourselves for routine actions that increase the power of our brain. We don't get to the end, quitting halfway through. Remember, when we were drawing skills, that is, there was such a joyful person with cool skills, with non-cool ones. I've kind of learned how to do it, but like not hard enough, not good enough. I learned to speak German, English, French, but just a little bit at a time. I read with a translator. I speak not very good. I haven't studied grammar. Either you've developed a skill coolly, and then depending on the different degrees of skill pumping, you'll get different environments. But we reach the end only when we understand in our head where we are going. And we understand that, there is a story that we can accept for ourselves under this topic. When a construction crew and the foreman goes to the old one of his construction workers, and says, "Look, we're letting you retire, but build a house." And this pensioner, he was like, "I'm so fed up with you," and quickly built a house. He didn't put in enough cement somewhere, he didn't put up the walls somewhere, he just covered it with wallpaper, and said, "That's it, leave me alone, here's your house, this is my last assignment." And in the end, when he built the house, that's it, they see him off to retirement, and the foreman comes up, and the construction supervisor says, "We are so happy that you worked with us." And he takes these keys to this house that he built, says, "We're giving you the keys to this house. That is, we paid for it, you built it and received your salary. And this is our gift from the bottom of our hearts. Use this house." And then this man began to cry. That is, he realized that he had not finished to the end, and he got an understanding. Any skill of yours should be at the top, and for this, you need to understand what it will lead to. Next, we often look for direct benefit and don't understand why we need to learn the pi, why we need the element periodic table, and it's all over the place. This happens all the time. Our children say, I don't want to learn maths. I don't need these cosine signs. I don't need these Stamens pastilles. I won't need it in my life. But it's the same as coming to the gym and being told by your trainer, grab the dumbbells and lift them 10 times. And you're like, I'll never use lifting a dumbbell 10 times in my life. You wouldn't say that, would you? That is, take a barbell and push it off your chest 10 times. And imagine you'll argue, I'll never use a barbell push-up in my life. Of course it won't. That is, the barbell is needed to develop your pectoral muscles, dumbbells to develop biceps. Movement on the track helps you, your heart beat better. And exactly the same way all the subjects, they work exactly the same way. They don't develop these things directly, but what develops as a result. And when we learn the pi, the element periodic table, we develop visual thinking and focus of attention. So you can be one of us, one of those who have gone through this, who have turned on their development, their skills of developing focus of attention, visual thinking, and get a cool result, like these students of ours. And like Natalia, who really understood that she couldn't memorize something, she didn't have enough time. And she looked at people who had good memories as if they were celestials, and already at some point, she had come to believe that the brain was incapable of being strong. It's just the age. It's just scary that it won't work. Scary to start. And when she went because of her daughter, kind of like we're sometimes afraid to go for our own sake, what if it doesn't work out? So she went with her daughter, a 14-year-old girl, and they had a shared activity. And there were the first results that helped her move on. Eventually, she learned to read at 400 words per minute and understand more than 90% of the information. She was able to write her goals and turn on a second wind in her life. It's so important when we're in our 40s. Kirill is a young entrepreneur, powerful, and at one point it felt like his brain was overheating. Sometimes you have a bunch of books lying around, and you read 1, 2, 3. Then you realize that you don't remember what was there, and you don't remember where you got this information. And eventually, when you start repeating it, you realize that you don't remember 80% of the information you read. You start doing it again, and you go round and round again, and generally at some point there's such a frustration, a lack of involvement. And I remember those eyes when he was able to memorize 800 English words in a fairly short period of time. Yes, he memorized 200 decimal places of pi. And when that feeling came, I can use my brain, I can memorize, I can read fast. It changed the whole mindset. And now Kirill is a speaker at the Millionaires Club in Sochi, a man who is moving forward and inspiring hundreds of people to develop, to become entrepreneurs. And we've created this basic workshop that will help you to enter this world where the brain works better, where the focus of attention is more powerful, visual thinking is more powerful, and it can be done anywhere in the world. We now have students on every continent in every country. It's a recorded course, and you can study on your way home. But the only thing is, keep your eyes on the road. If you're driving, don't take your course. When you are traveling somewhere, you can look at your gadget and switch on your brain to do certain exercises to develop visual thinking and focus of attention. This should be done for at least 15 minutes a day. And here, of course, it depends on the state of focus of attention and visual thinking at the moment. How overloaded are you with stress? How ready is your brain for work? I recommend you doing your best here now. Study 15 to 40 minutes a day. You can divide this into 2 to 3 approaches. Ideally, of course, take your class in the morning and make sure you repeat what you have studied in the evening before going to bed. Then, there will be maximum result, maximum effect. Whom is suitable for? Our youngest students are 5.5 years old and our oldest are 83 years old. It's suitable for everyone. The only thing is, of course, for those over 12. Then there's enough skill to remember that, to study every day, to move forward. Until the age of 12, you should be like a manager for your child. I recommend studying together with your child if you have a kid. If you don't, study on your own with someone. Take your friend, your girlfriend, your spouse as a pair. Maybe you could take your parent. Study together. It's more fun and interesting to study together, and you'll discover a lot of interesting points for growth. I think on the course you get to know people. Maybe you find a partner there. Because when you have a partner, it's harder not to do. It's harder not to develop. And we'll be checking homework. We will check homework. Our curators are included in the development. They will check, provide feedback. It is certainly stimulating to pass on, write reports, and move. Move step by step, step by step, step by step. What does this course include? These are 10 lessons that will develop your memory, attention, and visual thinking. These are the lessons that will be aimed at turning on your brain, presenting pictures so that you can develop your visual thinking and focus of attention, so that the visual thinking is stronger, and the focus of attention is stretched so that it's not 3, 5, 10, 12 seconds, so that you can focus on something for 20, 30, maybe an hour, maybe a whole day. Because in order for the brain to understand and accept something new, it needs to be in this loop for at least 15 minutes. That is, in order for something new to become attached to your old one, you need to be constantly in this for at least 15 minutes. If you're learning a language, either a subject or learning something new to yourself, 15 minutes without distraction, you have to read, you have to watch. Don't get distracted by SMSs. Don't get distracted by messaging. Don't get distracted. Then you have that attached forever. And you get your brain out of hibernation, you put it to work, and in a fortnight you realize that you can memorize, you can move forward. You realize that you will have different results in your work. You realize that you are starting to grow, you are starting to become younger in your brain. That's awesome. And for you, we've made an extra bonus meeting with me. These are the answers to your questions. This is an important part because one of the things that we have in our brain is that we need to explain why we need an action, then we can move forward. That is, if we know what we are getting from something, then we move forward without stopping. As soon as the brain realizes that it's like I don't understand why it's necessary, then the brain finds reasons not to do it. Because the brain's primary job is to save our lives. And our lives are saved through eating and through doing nothing. Well, answering questions, personal communication is a way to get recommendations directly. And we discuss how to apply the skills, knowledge we have learnt already in life. So, it's during a face-to-face meeting. Well, the Focus of Attention workshop is all about turning your brain on. It has all the knowledge to change the way you look at training, to change the way you approach memorization, and to take the first step to rapidly changing the standard of your life. Remember that you have ambitions and competencies, and when you want to get something, to be in a different reality, to earn more, to have a different environment. And the question here, how can I get this, is not very relevant, because it means that you need to come up with some steps for yourself, lifts to get yourself into a new environment. Here you need to ask a question. What should change in me in order for me to rise to the level of my desires, to the level of my ambitions? And so this change is our training. It's the rise of our competences. It's the growth of our competences. where you should grow, in what directions, in what disciplines you need to become more deeply developed. Think about it, and this develops only if you have a very powerful focus of attention and visual thinking. Then you learn quickly and achieve results quickly. When you develop quickly, achieve results quickly, you enjoy life more. You fill your life with qualitatively new changes, and you live a long, interesting life. It's no secret that life seems longer when you're a kid. Time in childhood is longer, and when we grow up, it seems to pass quickly. Does that happen to you? And this is due to the banal saturation of some new things in our lives. And when a person is young, when the person is small, they have some new things, new training. They learn something new every day. Every day they face some challenges. Every day is full of new victories, new joys from learning something. But when we become adults, we learn slowly. We get less interesting things, and life seems to drag on. Time somehow passes quickly without events. And the only difference is that children get 150 events in one day, and it seems to them that the day is full, while we adults get 150 events in 3 years. And we have 3 years in terms of saturation, like one day of a child. I mean, they've had a whole day, and we've had 3 years. And so the focus of attention is about how to grow fast, how to make more money, how to be right there in the world where you would feel awesome. And so, these are the 3 keys to personal transformation that I've laid out in this course. It's concentration span, it's visual thinking, and it's a methodology for learning to memorize. That is, in every lesson there will be exercises that will switch on your neural connections just so that you can concentrate better, you can visualize the picture better, and you will understand that there is a methodology of memorization as we memorized the element periodic table. And the format that's out there, it's probably the best format in online training that's out there on the planet right now. So we are working during a workshop. These are 10 recorded lessons that you can watch at any time. I recommend watching all days in a row except Saturday and Sunday. And it is the support in the Telegram chat, it will tell you when what session will be. So we'll start with the first session on Monday. That would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. For Saturday and Sunday, you will be given assignments to incorporate visualization and to rest. And then another 5 days. That is 10 days. Support in the Telegram channel, Telegram chat room, curator's support, checking your homework, and at the end, there will be a bonus group Q&A meeting. You get access for 4 months, meaning you can take that program several times in those 4 months and make yourself deep in that knowledge. So our task is to be deep in knowledge. That is, if you've just watched and you know what it is, that's one option for taking. If you've watched it and you can dive deep in there and repeat it several times and embed that knowledge in yourself at the neural connection level, then you're going to use it, then you get a completely different result. The cost is $69 for 2 weeks of such immersion and inclusion. And especially for those of you who are watching this right now, I mean, there's a special terms for you. Today the cost for you is fixed at $49. That is today, by submitting an application, paying, you get 2 weeks for $49. These are 10 recorded lessons that help you get your brain out of hibernation. This is access to all materials for 4 months. This is all Telegram chat activity. This is curator's support. Homework check. And this is a bonus Q&A group meeting for $49. What's $49? It's to eat once normally in a restaurant. That's a normal lunch for one person. Or it's a few cups of coffee a week. I mean, it's just a little bit. So, for the most determined, there's a price for you. $49. You can purchase for that amount within 3 days. If there are doubts, you want to, but there's a kind of ambivalence of, I want to, but I'm worried. I need it, but what is I can't do it? Submit your application now. Secure your discount so you still have the $49 price because it's going to rise. In 3 days, it will be a completely different price. Follow the link. It's in the comments. In the comments, follow the focus of attention link. Focus of attention is what makes an upgrade of your brain. The brain is your most important business tool. That is, in 10 days, you can change in general your attitude to training, to everything, to growth, to your outside world, to your environment. And how can you pay? You go to the website and you can submit an application. Next, our managers will contact you and help you pay for and go to this course. Payment will be possible only through debiting funds in your personal account. So it's a community training platform, it's a Skyworld community product, and so it's safe, completely safe. Your transaction is fully protected. And after purchasing the course, you will be prompted to start the course. And that's where the most important part comes in. In the initial lessons, you'll have a link to your chat room with the tracker. That's where the training, the communication will take place. That's the most important thing. You know very well that hurrying up and waiting is the hardest part. And this is where you need to not miss this moment. You need to catch it and be in the moment. That is, you will need to start with all the rest, keep up, and then it will be difficult to catch up with the pace in the group. Therefore, you need to remember that you want to live a different life. You want to have a different level of focus of attention, visual thinking, so that you can earn money, so that you can get your ambitions. So get into training and take it as seriously as possible. So, just a reminder, especially for you right now, the price is $49. Just follow the link in the comments and secure your discount, meaning it's guaranteed for you that you'll have $49 left in 3 days. That is, do it now, because in 3 days, the price will already be $59, and on the 7th of July, the price will already be $69 for the course, so make it in time. This is very important to you. What kind of results you'll get? You will learn to adopt the experience of the best partners. You will be able to do this immediately, and you will no longer need to learn from your mistakes. You'll be able to see which strategies work and which ones don't. It's important. It's important to do it right away, and not later in hindsight. You know, it happens that I should have done this a year ago. But time has passed, and those people who did it a year ago, they're already doing other things. Some things are working. And you're taking on what needs to be taken, and you're not in trend again. So here, you will be able to see it immediately. You will develop the skill of quick analysis of other people's success. What is a quick analysis of someone else's success? It's the ability to focus on some growth in another person and be able to note the key points. That's the first thing. The second is to be able to implement them in work. Note and implement. And here we develop in this format only when we see our goal, what we are going for. I think most people who are here, doing well with the goal. But if you're not taking steps now, then the goal needs to be seen even better. Because a goal you see is cool. It ignites you, makes you take a step every day. Every day. Every day. Further on, you will absorb information many times faster. That's not much. Simple exercises. These are simple exercises. But we will have to do them. And it will allow you to understand quickly new products, marketing tools, and you'll keep up with the trend. So it's important to do it in the here and now, Because often the problem with a lot of people is just doing things that don't work anymore. Because the focus of attention is pretty slow, the speed of information processing is slow, and time has passed. What was 10 years ago, what worked, is being applied now. But it no longer works. Frustration and dissatisfaction with life occur. But we see people who are somehow taller, faster, stronger. These are people who have better attention patterns and visual thinking, focus of attention. So this is for you. And you'll be able to train your team effectively, since you'll understand the problematics of knowledge transfer. You will realize what you didn't understand, how to make people understand you. And it completely changes the environment you live in. That is, you'll be able to create presentations that people will understand better. People will be more engaged, and you'll have a more powerful, motivated team as a result. And that, motivating partners, keeping them in the structure is probably the most important environment that we're living in right now, that we're growing in right now. We grow because the more motivated the structure, the more people, the longer they've been there, the deeper, we live in a life that we enjoy more. So how will your training go? Those who are ready to get involved, nod your head. So how will your training go? It's online. The lessons are recorded. I've recorded them. You can watch it at any time of the day, from any device. And we are traveling around the cities, and in the future, perhaps, we will meet with you, create a community, and share experiences of training, namely. It's very cool to communicate on some of the materials that you're learning, on books, on courses, and pass on knowledge. Because there are several types of developing yourself, developing your competences. These are training, these are courses, and probably what's the most effective and powerful, in my opinion, is precisely repollination through meetings with other people. That's why it's great to meet with partners, discuss what you've understood, how you've understood it, and grow through it, and change your content through it. The lessons are recorded. The duration of the lesson is 5 to 15 minutes. It's a video. And then there are the assignments. That is 15 to 60 minutes you will be investing in your development, every day for 10 days. Assignment is an exercise. Curators will check it after the lesson. That is, you will repeat, memorize, make video, send. And curators will check and provide feedback. An exercise like the one we did in this video, where you will draw something from memory and tell how you remembered it. And we will advise you. Our curators will advise you how to improve, how to speed up. Because the main task is to make your memory more imaginative, so that you can focus your attention on it for a long time, so that you can use this method for your growth, for your development. That's the most important thing. There will be a chat room with like-minded people. It's just about repollination. You will be able to interact with other course participants, share what you have learned, what you have not learned, how you have applied it in your life. Those who have succeeded in what you have failed at will tell you how they did it. Communicating in a general chat room is probably the most powerful part of training, that you're not going through it all by yourself, you're communicating with other students. And you can find like-minded people there that will give you the energy to move forward. Because it often happens that you stop. You stop for a year, for 2 years, and at some point you realize that everything would have been different if I would have started taking these steps 2 years ago. And such trainings are probably the best way to move forward and live the life you're dreaming of. Well, the whole course will be held on the Smart Training platform. It's a very powerful platform that helps, it's user-friendly, and it assists in taking courses very well. You will have tracker support at every stage of your training. Trackers are our attendants on this platform. They will be checking homework assignments. They will help keep you interested, motivated to take the lessons, support, share their experiences, share their advice. It's important to have that kind of support. A friend, a mate by your side in your training. It will move you. Who is it suitable for? You are an entrepreneur, freelancer, or a top of a company. You want to have a really healthy brain that helps you develop quickly. You already realize that the hundreds of books we have now are unread, and you will be promoted upwards. There are hundreds of courses that you want to take, and they'll move you up as well. How to do it fast, how to do it within limited time. If you're asking these questions, please come to us. If you are a student, a high school student, you clearly realize that you are now at a point in life where you can get the coolest opportunities possible. So in a world where people are unfocused, where people don't study well, your knowledge, your any knowledge, will give you a powerful competitive advantage. You'll get the best offers from the best companies, from the best universities. Just learn to do it focused and fast. If you have 60+ parents, or you are 60+, either way you need to take this course, since the brain needs to be trained. The brain needs to be trained, and the sooner the better. When a person in a wheelchair comes to me who can no longer remember their name, there is nothing you can do there. It is very difficult to bring it back. Well, it is almost unreal. Start it now. The earlier you start, the better. If you're a mom on maternity leave, or someone with kids who have grown up, and you need to get involved in life, get your work back on track, and get your brain back on track, this is for you. This course will jumpstart your brain so you can get back into life in your full power. And if you have kids under 11 years old, this is probably the most important course to help them get into the school curriculum quickly, clearly, with interest, and get the coolest possible results from what you're going through. And the most important question is, why will you definitely succeed? Because this is the program we have been running since 2017. We're having it offline. Every year we've improved it. Every year. Every year. Every year. And as of 2020, we've moved it online. So every lesson has already been improved over 50 times based on student feedback, based on student results. Imagine the work that has gone into making this work for everyone as conveniently as possible. What kind of students did we have? As I said, from 5.5 years to 83. So our course is designed for all ages. We made it intellectually understandable. It is clear that the brain of even a child, even an adult, even a very adult person, could understand this, accept it, and therefore everyone succeeds. It works out for everyone, and here it's a matter of regularity and a matter of timeliness. Absolutely everything works. And after each lesson, there's a practice assignment. Practice assignment. And if you do it, when you do it, well, there's no chance of not learning the material. I mean, the material is divided into very easy-to-understand clusters. After each cluster, we do a repetition. You do repetition, and you create solid. So you get step by step, make solid steps, and then you'll run on them and develop. I mean, if you have the desire, you can master everything in such a small period of time. Because the program should be fast, powerful, clear, for you to take it all. That is, the most important thing is desire. I think you have it if you've watched to this point. And we've prepared a gift for you. Remember, I told you about it. It's a habit tracker. It's a workbook of useful habits. It's how to develop self-control, an expert guide for entrepreneurs and working for hire. These are important things that give you a head start, give you a competitive advantage in life, in work, in relationships. It's important. Thanks to all for watching. Put your likes, write, order the program, join the program, and let's meet at the program. To those who join, to those who support the development of competencies, for living in an abundant world where there is a lot of money, a lot of cool events, a lot of interesting friends, a lot of cool connections. Thank you, and see you soon.